Greetings, Father Joe here, your friendly neighborhood pastor. I should say your tired neighborhood pastor. Today is Easter Sunday, and it has been a long but glorious week. During Lent this year, I've been working with the people of the parish to help them to know Jesus better, to try to help people to have a closer, more personal relationship with Jesus. And that means, and this year was no exception, it means that Holy Week tends to become very intense. If I am developing a closer relationship with Jesus, then I empathize or I sympathize or I share in the experience of Jesus's suffering and death. And when I do that, that makes Holy Week, and especially Holy Thursday night and Good Friday and Saturday morning, it makes it very intense, because I just try to be aware of where Jesus was at this point during Holy Week, and what must have been going on in his head, and just how much he suffered. And I didn't do that when I was young, because I always felt guilty. I didn't want to focus on Jesus's suffering because, well, I'm Irish Catholic. The reason Jesus was suffering was because of my sins. And you can see this in today's reading. St. Peter is speaking to the crowds, and he tells us that Jesus is the judge of the living and the dead. And if all you know about Jesus is that he's a judge, you don't want to be that close to him. Judges, usually we associate them with penalties and punishment. And Jesus doesn't want to punish us. He wants to take us to his heart and to cleanse us and to purify us so that we can love him as he loves us. That's really the only judgment that we have with Jesus, is when he loves us. How much can we love him back? And also something else that St. Peter said when he was speaking to the people, that he said that he went around doing good things and healing. And some people look at Jesus as a judge. Other people, and I think this has become, fairly prevalent now, they say, well, I believe that Jesus was a good man, or I believe that he was a holy man. I believe that he taught, I thought he had wisdom. And if that's all you know about Jesus, well, is he that different from John the Baptist? John the Baptist had followers who believed that he was the Messiah, and he had a religion after him until the 3rd or 4th century. But here's the difference. John the Baptist never claimed that he was going to die on a cross. He never told his disciples that he was going to die and rise from the dead on the 3rd day. He never claimed equality with God. Jesus was crucified because he claimed equality with God. Jesus suffered because he is God. And it was very difficult to understand or to believe. Even the disciples, they don't really know that Jesus is going to rise from the dead until they see him risen. And St. Peter tells us, he says, God revealed himself to us so that we who knew him, who ate with him and who drank with him, we could testify that Jesus had truly risen from the dead. And so some people will say, well, I believe in Jesus, but not that he was God, or I believe in Jesus, but not that he really died or really rose from the dead. if you look at the evidence, Jesus was truly man, but he was also truly God. He did tell his disciples that he was going to be crucified. He told them he was going to die, and he told them that he was going to rise on the third day. The scriptural witness to this goes back. It's as early as maybe 12 to 15 years after Jesus rose from the dead. There were eyewitnesses. And what did the eyewitnesses do? The disciples who knew him before he died, who witnessed and experienced him, and who knew him after he rose from the dead and ascended into heaven, they were not afraid to be martyred. All of the disciples, all right, all of the apostles, with the possible exception of St. John, they died a martyr's death. That means that while they were afraid and they fled in the garden, they were no longer afraid because now they knew Jesus. Not that he was some kind of a mean judge, not that he was simply somebody who went around and said good things and did nice things, but they understood that Jesus was truly God and that he had the power to raise the dead. And that knowledge and that love, and you got to have both of them. You really can't love Jesus if you don't know him. And if you know him, or if you think you know him and you don't love him, then you really don't know him. But the disciples who knew him and loved him, they were willing to follow his example and to lay down their life. And so again, during Lent here at St. Patrick's, we worked on knowing Jesus and having a closer personal relationship with him, with Jesus, the risen Lord. And so I invite you, give Jesus a chance. Let him show you how much he loves you. Pray to him. Talk to him. Read the scriptures about him. Come to Mass and experience a relationship with Jesus in his body and blood in the Eucharist. Experience his relationship by offering your life with him at Mass. Jesus died once for all, but we can participate in that when we come to Mass. So ask Jesus, give him a chance. Say, Jesus, help me to know you better. Help me to love you more deeply. And I guarantee if you do that, next year, Holy Week will be a lot more intense. And you may suffer more on Good Friday. You may be aware of that suffering on Holy Thursday night when we remember Jesus' agony in the garden. It's very intense, but I promise you, I guarantee you this. When you get to the Easter Vigil and they start singing the Gloria and they're ringing the bells, you will be joyful. You will be filled with a greater love of Jesus. I've been a priest for almost 33 years. And I get exhausted during Holy Week. And frequently when we start the vigil, I am just about at the end of my rope. But when we start singing the Gloria, and I remember that this is what God created me for, and this is why Jesus came down, so that we could glorify God, so we could be lifted up in this glorious and joyful expression. All of my tiredness, any frustration or suffering, it just all melts away. And all of a sudden, while I was experiencing Jesus' suffering, now I'm experiencing more and more personally his resurrected self and a gift and a share of the life of heaven. So that's my invitation or challenge or whatever you want to call it. Ask Jesus to let you know him better and have a more personal relationship, and you will love him more. God bless you.